Hi there. If the person that has come in for public participation that says iPad can rename themselves, I'd appreciate that. Thank you. Hi there. This is Marcy Lalonde from Corporate Services, and I just wanted to ask the person who has come in as iPad to rename themselves, please. Thank you.
Okay. Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's great to see a nice full house here. And I would like to call the regular council meeting for Monday, August 24th to order. Before I start, we would like to respectfully acknowledge that we are gathered on the traditional territory of the Lekwungen speaking people, represented today by the Esquimalt and Songhees nations. We're grateful to work, live, and play in this very special place. Item two is approval of the agenda. And before I start here, I'm going to, I never like starting with apologies because I know a lot of people came out for 420 Tamarack, but some information became available late this afternoon, and I just got a statement to read right now. Before council proceeds with consideration of 420 Tamarack Road rezoning application, I'd like to bring an administrative matter to council's attention. Residents within 100 meters of the radius of the property were notified by postcard that the proposed bylaw and related materials would be available for public inspection between August 10th and August 24th. Following the Planning and Land Use Committee meeting on May 4th, 2026, revisions were made to the proposed bylaw, including changes to regulate building height using both maximum in meters and stories. In addition, a new report entitled 420 Tamarack Road Rezoning, Supplementary Information, following the Planning and Land Use Committee review, was prepared. Staff has since determined that these updated materials were not included in the public inspection binder. That's the virtual binder. That was made available for review. As a result, members of the public may not have had access to all the information intended to be available prior to council's consideration of this application. It is important that both council and the public have the opportunity to review the complete record before a decision is made. To ensure a fair, transparent process, I will be asking council this evening to consider deferring consideration of the 420 Tamarack Road rezoning application to the next available committee of the whole meeting, thereby providing additional opportunity for public review, input, and discussion before council deliberates on this matter. So this is very important to this council, transparency. And I just want to apologize that not all this information was made available. CEO, do you have anything to add to that, please?
No, Mr. Mayor, you have covered that off. I think with this application, a number of things changed from the time it went to the Planning and Land Use Committee, which was a result of council's deliberations at 3145 Machosen about story and height. So the bylaw was amended to provide that clarity that council wanted. And that wasn't in that package, as well as the staff report that was put live with the agenda review on Wednesday of last week. So neither of those were added to that binder as an oversight. And with that being the case, in a lot of the public comments that we received, it seems clear that that information didn't transcribe into some of those letters that had come back in. So we bring this administrative matter to council. Obviously, this isn't something that anybody likes moving forward. We're looking at our processes to ensure that this doesn't happen again from the perspective of council's time and the public's time and the developer's time of bringing this forward. With that, your worship, these are the things that we will be looking at for service improvements moving forward. Certainly duly noted, and apologies on behalf of the administration for missing that key component.
Okay, thank you very much. I have a proposed motion. Can you put that onto the screen? And I'll look for a move and seconder, please.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, I don't have it prepared for the screen right now, but it is that item 9.2, 420 Tamarack Road rezoning be deferred to the first available committee of the whole meeting.
Thank you very much. Can I get a mover? Councillor Day, please.
Thank you. I'm happy to move that motion, but I was hoping to provide the public with information on when that will be. I believe our next available is September 28th.
This is new information that came forward this afternoon. I haven't looked at the agenda for there, but we will do our best to make sure that it's available at the next committee meeting. I don't have a date for you at this point. It's something I can confirm with both the developer and obviously in the public notices that go out. We just need the opportunity to look at the upcoming agendas and how that will fit in.
Thank you.
We could do a special also, by the way. Right? Okay. So can I get a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Grove. Discussion. Oh, Councillor Jensen and then Councillor Ward.
Thank you, Worship. And as disappointing as this might be, especially for the folks who attended, I think the process is there for a reason. And we do need to hold ourselves to account. I think it's apologies to the people who showed up, including the proponents for this particular location. But can I get some clarity? Here it sits on an agenda for council. And now we're not moving it to another council agenda, we're moving to committee of the whole. It might be a nuance, but can I have an understanding of what the thinking is there?
Absolutely. I'll tell you what the thinking is. There were a total of, over 40 letters that were submitted. I think it needs a little more discussion. And as you know, committee of the whole allows that discussion to happen a lot freer than here at council, because council is very businesslike. So I think, but we can do a council meeting thereafter and do whatever we have to do. So
I think as well, and I know the chief administrator mentioned it, but what's on the agenda is important as well. So sticking this at the back of some voluminous agenda that's already underway would do it a disservice. So hopefully we can keep that in mind so we don't make people wait till 10 o'clock to hear what they came to hear.
Right. Thank you. Thank you very much. Seeing no other speakers, I'll just call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? Councillor Ward. Okay, and now getting through that, that motion passes. So the next, I'm looking for a mover and seconder that the agenda of the regular council meeting of August 24th be adopted as amended, please. Mover and seconder. Thank you, Councillor Grove and Councillor Torgerson. Okay, and discussion. Seeing none. Any opposed? Seeing none, motion carries. Okay, I'm going to move on to item 3, which is the mayor's message. I just have 3 messages this evening. First of all, I just want to welcome everyone back from summer recess. I hope everyone had an opportunity to enjoy a little bit of time off with family and friends. And we only have 2 regular council meetings left here until the end of this term. And yeah, I'll let people pile out here. And my second message is pretty simple. I'm going to hand the reins over to Councillor Grove, who just wants to take a few minutes to update council on the community garden initiative. Councillor Grove.
Thank you, Mayor. So we have under direction from council to pursue some community garden possibilities down at Lagoon West Park. That has been taken on by the Colwood Garden Society, and we're working together. This is very early stages. I think that we have some time now to develop a public engagement aspect to this project, which will roll out hopefully fairly soon. And the location, the style, the type, the size, all of those things would need to be settled and discussed. So I'm hoping staff can find that to fit and we can get to going on that soon. Just wanted to let people know that that possibility existed. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, David. It's great that you volunteered to take this on top of everything else that you do. Thanks a lot, Councillor Grove. The last thing I just want to say is on the evening of August 13th, the Wanda Fuca Lawn Bowls Club hosted its inaugural mayoral and councillors lawn bowling challenge. All 5 West Shore municipalities councils were participated in this tournament. In brief, I'm happy to say that and announce that the city of Colwood, represented by Councillor Misty Olson, Councillor Ian Ward, Councillor David Grove, Councillor Dean Jensen, and me. We won. And I say the terms I use is through sheer determination, skill, and true grit, and a whole bunch of luck. But we get to claim the bragging rights as the winner. And I have Steve from the Juan de Fuca Lawn Bowls Club here. He wants to make a quick presentation. So Steve, please, I'll let you, I think you want to have a word here. So go ahead, please. Just have to push the button on the right on. There you go.
Good evening. I'm Steve Schulthan, representing the Juan de Fuca Lawn Bowls Club. I am excited and thrilled to be able to present to the city of Colwood the first annual Challenge Cup. So congratulations, and I very much look forward to seeing you next year when you return to defend your cup.
Okay.
That won't work.
So I'm going to move on to item 4, adoption and receipt of minutes. May I have a mover and seconder for the adoption and receipt of the minutes detailed in section 4 under recommendation. Okay, thank you. Councillor Olson and Councillor Jensen. Any errors or omissions? Seeing none, call the question. Any opposed? Seeing none, motion carries. Okay, we're going to move on to item 5, which is public participation. We had 26 written submissions that were received prior to agenda publication, and they're attached to the agenda. We also had 22 written submissions that were received after agenda publication, and they will be appended to the agenda following tonight's meeting. In addition, they will be available on the city's meetings website tomorrow. Just like to thank the public for their written submissions. I was really impressed by the quality. I finally got through them all. That was quite the handful that we had this time, but all worthy of reading. We have 9 people that have registered to speak at public participation tonight. 9 virtually, is it 9 virtual?
That is virtual, but we do have a number of the people that have registered that were specifically here to speak about Tamarack.
Okay.
And we do have another one that's here on a different issue,
Okay.
Electronically.
Okay, so I know that we've got a couple controversial items on the agenda tonight. And I just want to state something here that I'd just like to remind everyone participating in public participation that we really truly welcome your comments and opinions. And I just want to ask everyone to please focus your comments on the issue, the proposal, or the concern, and not individuals. I want to keep this as respectful as possible. And we may disagree on the issues, but we can and should do so respectfully and constructively. So at this time, let's start with the people virtual.
Hi there, this is Marcy from City of Colwood. The first public participation participants, Marlene and Peter, if you'd like to unmute yourself and address council. Thank you.
Hello, hi. Thank you for the opportunity. I'm Marlene.
And I'm Peter Lewis.
And we live on Triangle Mountain, 863 Coalta Crescent. We've been there for 39 years. We have probably 30 to 40 really large, mature fir and mostly fir and cedar trees, some maple trees on the property. We don't like cutting down trees. We really appreciate that the city of Colwood has a tree protection policy. We learned recently, though, earlier this month, that 2 of our large fir trees have a disease. There's also a cedar tree that we haven't applied for a tree cutting permit on, but the fir trees, we need to take them down first. We've hired a really well-qualified arborist, actually somebody who does cutting for Colwood. And so that bill is $2,500. And then when we were applying for a tree cutting permit, which we didn't know we needed to do, but when we applied, we also learned we have to pay another $750 a tree to cut down the tree. And if we replant, so we're delaying the cedar tree, if we replant 2 trees a year later, if they're still alive, we can get the $1,500 back. So the thing that doesn't work for us is we think there should be a distinction. These trees are being cut for safety, not for profit, not for development, not for views. But if they aren't cut and they blow down, and they will blow down eventually, it won't, I don't know when, but they are going to blow down. One of them is for sure going to reach, if it is going to fall towards the street, and it's going to fall on hydro wires and probably actually reach the road as well. And the other tree might fall on our house. I don't know which direction it would fall. So these are being cut for safety reasons. And we think that there should be a distinction between charging for tree cutting if it's for profit or if it's for safety. It's a lot of money to come up with up front. $4,100, the tree permit, $1,500 in tree cutting fees, like the city of Colwood, and then $2,500 to the arborist. It's a lot of money to come up with up front.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm gonna wrap you up here. That beep beep was your time, so I did let you extend, but message received.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you very much. Next, please.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, I believe the remainder of the people wanting to speak during public participation were specifically for Tamarack. So I'm not sure if they still want to address council or not. They might not be aware that it has been deferred to a future committee of the whole meeting.
Yes, let's find out.
I see that we still have people online, so I'm going to start off with Shannon B. If you want to unmute yourself, and you can go ahead and address council. Thank you.
Hi there. Good evening. As you just said, my name is Shannon, and I live on Whale Road, 2721, which is just a really short walk from Gamble Park. And I'm a mother of 3 young kids. And I know things have kind of changed track here, but I just wanted to just mention that I'm here in support of the proposed development at Tamarack. I want to focus on the park because that's what matters most to my family. Gamble Park is a lovely, green, open, like well-kept space. But if you're a parent of young kids like I am, there's nothing really to actually do. So my kids and I just walk through it. We don't actually stay. The playground upgrade, however, which is included in this project, would change that. Real play structure would turn that whole area, Gamble Park, into a place families in this neighborhood would actually, I think, seek out and not just pass through. And especially because this isn't a private park for residents of the development, it's a public park upgrade. Every family on Whale Road and beyond could benefit from it. So beyond the park, I also think that this project is thoughtfully designed and fits with what Colwood has planned for this area. And I support the housing that helps our community grow for people who already live here. So I just want to say that, and thank you guys so much for your time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Next.
Hi there, Michael, under public participation. If you'd like to unmute yourself, and you can go ahead and address council. Thank you.
I'm assuming you're meaning Michael Veerkamp?
That's correct.
You gotta bear with me because I'm just getting a cold. Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Mike, and my wife Donna and I live on Sunridge Valley Drive. We've been in Colwood for over 20 years now. We raised our kids here, and they're all adults now out in the real world. So I want to be clear, we're not speaking tonight because this affects us directly. We're speaking because of what we think this project says about Colwood as a whole. I think there's a pattern in how a lot of cities do this. Apartments and condos get built, sure, but they get pushed to the busy roads, the corridors, the places nobody really wants to live. And the message that sends, even if nobody says it out loud, is that people who live in apartments or condos don't get to be part of real neighborhoods in the same way a house on a quiet street does. That's not something we ever really questioned until we saw this project. 420 Tamarack is different. It's not on a busy corridor. It's on a quiet cul-de-sac next to a park in an actual neighborhood. The same kind of setting Donna and I raised our own kids in. And I think this matters more than people realize. It says that this building is just as much a part of this community as any house on any street around it. There's also a practical side to this that shouldn't get lost. 153 new households within walking distance of Colwood Corners means real, everyday customers for the shops and businesses already there. That's not a small thing for the people who've invested in this commercial area. More people living close by is how Colwood is how that part of Colwood stays healthy long term.
Mike, I'm going to have to get you to wrap it up. Your time is expired.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thanks.
Hi, under public participation, Kara King, if you'd like to unmute yourself and you can then go ahead and address council. Thank you.
Hi, good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Kara King. My husband, Matthew, and I live on Layla Place, and I grew up in Colwood, next to Marcy. So this city is my home in every sense. Matthew is a dentist here, and I work alongside him as a dental hygienist. We get to chat with our patients quite often, and it's remarkable how frequently the same thing comes up. Retirees wondering where to downsize, young adults wondering if they can afford to stay. The question is always, is there room for us here? 420 Tamarack answers that. 153 homes beside a park, walkable, built to fit in the neighborhood. Colwood made room for us, so let's make room for the next generation too. Thank you for the opportunity to be heard.
Thank you very much, Kara. Next, please.
Hi there, under public participation, we have, I believe it's Andrew. Go ahead and you can unmute yourself and address council. Sorry, it's Andrea. My apologies.
Andrea Scott.
Evening.
No, I believe
yes,
that
sorry.
that's not for public
Is it
participation.
Andrea
I think
Scott?
that's for, yeah.
No.
Okay, perfect. Okay,
Yeah,
so
thank
now
you.
we got everyone virtually. Then we'll ask anyone here that's in attendance tonight to come on up and participate. Please. Yes. Just so that you know the colors, there's a green light, which means you're being timed. Yellow is you got 30 seconds left, and the red means you got to stop. Okay. Yeah.
Good evening, Mayor Kobayashi and members of council. My name is Margaret Hill, and my husband Ryan and I are the registered owners of the unit, I won't say the unit, in the Eliza B condo in Royal Bay, directly across from the proposed development at 3569 Ryder, Hesjedal Way. We submitted a written objection to DVP 0019 on June 15th, and I'm here tonight to speak briefly to that. To our concerns. First, I want to clarify one error in my previous submission. I mistakenly referred to an increase of 3 6-story buildings. What I meant was the significant increase in permitted height, as well as the increased overall size and massing associated with this variance. We've always been aware of the 4 buildings with the social building between them, originally planned directly in front of Eliza and the future Bella complex. We are comfortable with that plan. We also have been aware of the smaller, less obtrusive building to be built on the corner and its position as shown in the rendering. What we did not anticipate was this variance introducing a substantial fifth building into our sightlines and eliminating the breezeway and openness that were part of the original vision presented to purchasers. The site would now contain 6 buildings, 5 6-story buildings, and 1 1-story building, which would be the social house. That is a very different configuration from what was originally presented, and it creates a much greater sense of density and enclosure along Ryder Hesjedal. The images used to market Royal Bay showed a much smaller building in a different configuration, with a breezeway and open space between it and the 4 larger buildings directly in front of us. From our corner unit, we believe that that breezeway would help maintain a sense of openness. With the proposed changes, that openness is taken away completely, and I don't have the rest. So can I wrap it up?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. I'll talk quick. And the development will instead create a much more imposing wall of buildings directly across from our home, which was not what we had been shown when we made the decision. I'll skip a bit here. This isn't a vacant neighborhood waiting to be designed. We live there now. We are not opposed to path developing property. We are not opposed to growth. In Royal Bay, we are asking council to make sure that the growth respects the neighborhood that's already there. These are the biggest buildings in Royal Bay, and they're right in front of all the 4-store buildings. And I'm going to just not say what I said, but it's just disappointing because it's actually ruining the look, the feel, and the character of the neighborhood.
Thank you very much for your feedback.
Do I press that again?
Yeah, next, please. Oh, if you could push, there's a little button there. Right, you're on.
Okay. Yes, good evening, Mayor and councillors. Okay, I'm here to talk about Eliza B as well. And I just want to point out that we in Eliza B have these 2 brochures and also the the Bella Park brochures, which clearly showed that the building that we were going to buy had basically laneways and plenty of green space, and we were quite happy about that. Now we're finding that they're going to wedge in a 6-story building, which is going to take away laneways, going to take away the equivalent amount of green space, and we really object to that. I feel that in listening, having been to some council meetings over the past couple of months, these new apartment buildings are getting a lot of families, and they have a lot of children, and they have a lot of pets as well, all the pets that we have in our building, and they need green space. They need green space, and I think we should be encouraging family-friendly communities and not trying to create a concrete jungle, which I believe this building is going to function. Consequently, I think it's very timely that your council is reviewing your OCP, and that in doing that OCP, you should be looking at these family-friendly communities, because I think that, as Margaret was just saying, we really like living in Royal Bay, and we feel that we'd like to keep the atmosphere and the friendliness that's there at the moment. I just want to say that, you know, we sent in 75 signatures were submitted to council, and these are all people.
I'll get you to wrap up. Sorry.
Okay, these are all people who wish to deny this variation. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, good.
Next, please. Anyone else for public participation? Going once. Oh, Marcy.
My apologies, Mr. Mayor. We do also have Mike Riley online that wanted to address council.
Oh, that's that good-looking dude there. Okay, sure.
Mr. Riley, there we go. Thank you.
Mr. Riley,
Hi,
go ahead, please.
Very funny. Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. I was actually here for Tamarack, but after the terrific tree presentation, I've been hooked and I'm staying on. I'll come back.
Okay, thank you. And anyone else? Seeing none, I will close public participation. And we'll move on to item 6, which is delegations. And I understand we have the West Shore Chamber of Commerce doing the presentation. We have the Executive Director, Julie Lawlor, and she's joined by Kelly Darwin, the President of the West Shore Chamber of Commerce. Welcome, folks. Over to you, Julie.
Oh, please. No, don't worry. I can always do it without if needs be. We have it.
Couple seconds.
Okay. You ready? Great. Oh, I'm already on. Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Thank you for the opportunity to come to speak to you at a very busy time. I'm Executive Director Julie Lawlor, and as stated, I'm here with our President, Kelly Darwin. And our purpose in coming before you tonight is to report out on the community service agreement we have with the City of Colwood, as well as respond to some points we were asked to address, which of course we're happy to do. The next 6 slides each relate to a component of our community service agreement. So business support to start, as indicated in the slide, the West Shore Chamber provides general query response and referral, and our e-news, social media, community calendar, and website resources are open to all. We like to say that if we don't have the answer, we can find somebody who does. Website resources include a page new for 2026 on business benefits and grants, as well as our already standing resources for small business and information on working with Royal Roads University students. If you're a member of the West Shore Chamber, you can also submit content for our e-news, as West Shore Parks and Rec have done for their 60th anniversary celebrations, or have your news shared through our social media. As this is more generalized support, we don't track the Colwood business impacts in every case, but if council is interested, I can certainly provide more data on Colwood business news shared out through our e-news. The West Shore Chamber is a clearinghouse of and a trusted source of information. Right now, we're getting ready to act as a conduit of information about support for businesses impacted by the most recent wave of US tariffs. Our membership with the Canadian Chamber of Commerce means we can effectively share this information out as quickly as possible. The West Shore Chamber convenes, facilitates, collaborates, or supports in a whole range of areas that directly or indirectly support business. For example, we've recently reached out to the business community, both members and non, for their input on a potential grant application that would provide skills training in areas that businesses identify as a priority. Business promotion. I chose this slide as it shows our director, Begum Earlyamaz of Oasis Landscape Design, a Colwood business, speaking to two other members at a networking event we had at Acera Insurance in Royal Bay. Over the last year, 8 out of 30 chamber events have been held at Colwood organizations, with this year's AGM and mixer planned at the Children's Health Foundation. While our networking events are for our members, we always create spaces for people interested in finding out more and offer a non-member option for all of our ticketed events. This has included a Future-Proofing Your Business Lunch and Learn offered by Ingrid Vaughn of My Smart HR at the John Horgan campus in March, and our 70th anniversary quiz night and dance party, which is happening at the Langford Legion in September. This slide is from the promotion for last year's joint event in November 2025. Since 2022, we've partnered with the City of Colwood on 1 or 2 prosperity roundtable lunches per year, building on the online roundtables introduced by Colwood during the pandemic. These have varied from generalized check-in conversations to more focused discussion on Colwood's value proposition and retail strategy. From our quarterly meetings with our liaison, Councillor Misty Olson and CAO Jason Johnson, we appreciate that this year's event will be deferred into early 2027. So it turns out that I don't have a photo of the 4 of us meeting for quarterly liaison meetings, so I've included this photo of Mayor Kobayashi presenting at our Coffee with the Mayor event, which took place earlier this year. Consistent quarterly meetings have really helped us work more closely together, from events like this to discussing issues impacting Colwood businesses. As the current 4-year term draws to a close, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank Councillor Misty Olson for her active liaison work with the West Shore Chamber. We share City of Colwood information through our e-news and social media as a preferred partner. Over the last year, we had over 40,000 emails opened with a 5% click rate. Our open rate is 49%, and we have a subscriber list of around 930. If council would like more details on what City of Colwood news has been shared, I can certainly provide more data. We can also send direct email to Colwood-based businesses on our database on business-related issues. This currently stands at 361, which we understand is about half of business licenses, so there is still a gap there. Best of the West Shore, this slide shows 2 Colwood-based businesses who are winners in 2025, with Island Junk Solutions on the right for Best Home or Trade Services, and Trillium West Shore Village on the left for Best Senior Services. Overall, 25 Colwood businesses were winners or finalists, and this matters because it is promotion for and attention to these businesses. This contest is open to all businesses and nonprofits who have a location in the West Shore. Colwood Parks were also winners in 3 out of 4 community categories. Now that I've touched on the points of the community service agreement, I'd like to touch on some facts and figures. As you can see, our operating budget for the calendar year is just over $353,000. The majority of that is still based on memberships at 42%. If you compare that with 2024, you can see that our operating budget has gone up by 8% over 2 years, and that is reflected largely of the increase in almost all costs. The comparison between the 2 years is like for budget areas with one exception. We have been unable to rent out areas of our building in 2026 as we have in prior years, and have been fortunate in 2025 to bring in a wage subsidy through the Canada Summer Jobs Program. I've been asked to report on membership growth and retention statistics. Membership was at its lowest in 2021 when we hit 333 members. Since then, we've been gradually increasing overall membership year on year, and as of today, we're at 425. However, this has been largely driven by new membership, as our drop rate started to go up in autumn of 2024 and is a continuing trend. Reasons range from retirement to value to member capacity, and we will continue to refine what we do based on feedback. But make no mistake, things are challenging for business right now. I'm now going to hand over to our president, Kelly Darwin, to take you through the last couple of slides. Kelly.
Hello, Mayor and Council. As the City of Colwood considers its planning and budgeting for 2027, we wanted to recommend that one tool that could be of use is the implementation of business walks. Many chambers carry out these in partnership with municipalities to the benefit of both, and we'd be happy to discuss that in more detail. You'll also be aware that Langford recently launched its economic development strategy, and business walks is one of the initiatives we are discussing with them. This segues into a request for an update on the potential move to a new facility. Langford's economic development strategy specifies that the City of Langford's intention to relocate the chamber offices to a more accessible and visible location in downtown Langford to also allow for the full expansion of the Veterans Memorial Park and an important community asset. Negotiations continue, and I expect we will have we'll be able to provide a more detailed update out to the community very soon. The West Shore Chamber started life as the Colwood and District Chamber in 1956. And as we look back over and celebrate our 70 years of service to our community this year, I'd like to express our thanks to the City of Colwood. That's my official thanks. I also want to throw in a personal one. As I hit my final 10 years of being in the West Shore Chamber of Commerce, or being on the board of the West Shore, I've been looking back at what my achievements have been. And over the past 3 years, as I've been president, I think my biggest achievement has been enforcing the relationships or strengthening the relationships that we've had with our municipalities. And I think if we look back 3 years ago, we had a relationship with Colwood. And if you look back 10 years ago, maybe not quite as strong as it is today. So I would like to thank Mayor Kobayashi, Councillor Olson, and CAO Jason Johnson for their devotion and their hard work in coming to the table, working with the chamber, and creating a relationship that I hope will last my term as the president of the chamber. Thank you very much.
Finished the end? Okay. I'll open it up for questions from council. Any questions on the presentation? Councillor Jordison, please.
Thanks, Mayor Kobayashi. I just wanted to say thank you for the presentation and for the work you're doing with our business community. But I think the business walks proposal is really interesting, because I think that's exactly the kind of direct information council could benefit from hearing about. But I guess I'm just trying to understand what's behind the numbers. More importantly, like what Colwood businesses are telling the chamber that they need from us, if you have any of that information.
Now, the key thing there is what Colwood businesses are saying. And I can say some of the things that we're hearing, but I think that one of the reasons why I think looking at something like business walks would be extremely useful for council, but also for us as an organization in order to be able to respond, is that businesses need a lot of different things, and some of them we can address together, and some of them are larger than what we can do necessarily. What we're hearing from businesses generally is about how challenging the cost of doing business is, and that comes at different levels, from local up through to federal. But in terms of specific Colwood businesses, it would probably be more along the lines of sort of one thing here and one thing here and one thing here. So I can always go back and look at what data that we have to provide you, but I also feel like because we don't have necessarily a direct line to Colwood businesses, we know about them when we know about them, but they don't opt in to have their information sent through to us, then we're missing an opportunity in terms of that conduit.
Okay. Thank you, Julie.
Thank you. Councillor Olson, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I had a similar sentiment as Councillor Jordison, and thank you for the presentation. And it's been a pleasure working with you both. And Kelly, I wish you the best on your next endeavors. It's been a delight. I think the business walks are also a great opportunity for membership drive. Way to get new members on board with the chamber. So, and this council seems to love data. So any kind of information that we can get, even with respect to referrals that are actually being made to the chamber members, and getting a better understanding of how you're surveying your members, would be great, just to get a better understanding of the benefits that they're getting through the chamber. We love data, but I do appreciate the presentation, and I've enjoyed working with you both. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
I just will wrap it up here then. Again, really appreciate you coming out this evening, you and Kelly. That's phenomenal. And, being a past president, of course, of the Chamber of Commerce, I understand the frustrations that you go through. It's even tougher now than, well, I wouldn't say that was tougher. I think we had different challenges when I was the president. But I want to thank you for everything that you do for the community, for the business community. One of the questions I do have is we're trying to align our own economic development strategy. It won't be in this term. The new council will have that challenge, that's for sure, how they want to do business here. So, I'd like to, you're going to play an important role in that, because I certainly don't understand what your strategic objectives are. And we got to make sure that we're not crossing over each other's, or how we can help one another, to tell you the truth. So I think that's really, really important. So, I mean, it's not going to happen in this term. We're almost finished here, but it is a strategic objective in our strategic plan. So do you have a strategic plan right now of some sort?
Yes, we do.
Okay. So are we going to, can we maybe in the new term, when the new term joins, can we, maybe get that presentation to the new council?
Absolutely.
Okay, great. And my last question I have for you is, I don't quite understand what's happening. You just said you're getting kicked out of your building now, right?
I did not say that.
Okay. So I just, you had some hesitation here, so I picked up on that.
I mean, I think the point is that there's a very clear statement in the Langford Economic Development Strategy, and other than to say that there are negotiations going on, we're not really in a position to say anything else publicly at this time.
I understand. Okay, thank you very much. I picked up on that. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, thank you very much again. Thanks, Julie.
Thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate it. Okay, we'll move on to item 7, which is the consent agenda. There's only 2 items on the consent agenda. Any member can make a request to move any item for the purpose of individual debate or discussion. And it only takes 1 person, and we move it. Councillor Day, please.
Thank you. I'd like to discuss the age-friendly plan.
Okay, we'll move that to 8.6 under new business. Okay. And okay, that's it. May I get a motion to approve the consent agenda, please? Councillor Jensen and Councillor Olson. Discussion? Seeing none, any object? Oops, sorry, you're still hot. Wait, sorry. Oops. Any objections? Seeing none, motion carries. Thank you very much. We'll move on to new business. Item 8.1, development variance permit number DVP 00019, 3569 Ryder Hesjedal Way. And Mr. CAO, can we get you to introduce us, please? Thank you.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through to Mayor and Council, this is the development variance permit number DVP 0019 for 3569 Ryder Hesjedal Way. Matt Blakely, our senior planner, has an overview to provide to council. The recommended motion for council's consideration is that came from the Planning and Land Use Committee that council refer the DVP back to staff to work with the applicant to explore revisions to the proposed building use and design. Mr. Matt Blakely will take council through the application. Would you like the full presentation?
Yes, please.
Great. Thank you, Mayor and Council. So the purpose of tonight's presentation is to provide a high-level summary of development variance permit application number DVP 00019 for the property located at 3569 Ryder Hesjedal Way. More detailed analysis and supporting information are provided in the staff report. So this site is approximately 3,099 square meters or 0.765 acres. It's located in Latoria South Royal Bay at the corner of Royal Commons Road and Ryder Hesjedal Way. It is within Area 2 of the CD28 zone and the Commons neighborhood as identified in the Latoria South sub-area plan. The site is bordered by Royal Commons Road to the north, Ryder Hesjedal Way to the west, an internal lane and a four-story mixed-use building to the east, and the rest of the Parcel B development site immediately to the southeast, as you can see in the top right corner of the screen there. On July 6, 2023, the original development permit for Parcel B was issued. The approved development permit included 4 6-story apartment buildings, 1 4-story mixed-use building, and 1 amenity building. For context, the original development permit did not include the future park at the corner of Ryder Hesjedal Way and Producer Way, or the property at the corner of Royal Commons Road and Ryder Hesjedal Way, which is the property that is subject to the current variance application this evening. So the proposal envisions the construction of a 77-unit mixed-use development designed to offer a diverse mix of housing options and ground floor commercial units along Royal Commons Road. Units will include 1 bedroom plus den, 2 bedrooms and 2 bedrooms plus den. The 2 commercial units will contribute to the active street frontage of Royal Commons Road and align with the intent of the Commons neighborhood, which is to be the commercial, social, and cultural heart of the Latoria South area. The building is proposed to be above 2.5 levels of underground parking with a total of 88 residential, 13 visitor, and 6 commercial parking stalls. The proposal fully complies with the parking requirements set out in the off-street parking regulations bylaw, as well as all requirements in the Colwood land use bylaw, with exception to the maximum building height that is the subject of the variance request today. In addition to the variance application, the applicant has also applied for a form and character development permit for the proposed site. Due to the variance request being associated with the overall building height, the approval of the variance is required to make the current development feasible. Until that decision is made, staff cannot move forward with processing the development permit. In terms of the official community plan, the property is designated Seaside Village and is located within the Commons neighborhood as set out in the Latoria South sub-area plan. That sub-area plan identifies this property as part of Area 2, which is a 2.7 hectare mixed-use precinct intended to support the adjacent support the adjacent retail core. Along the northern edge, the plan envisions a pedestrian-oriented streetscape along common roads with ground floor retail and commercial uses and residential or commercial uses above. The plan anticipates building heights of up to 4 stories along the northern edge and up to 6 stories across the rest of the site. It also identifies an overall density of about 3.0 floor area ratio, with the potential for additional density where broader city objectives are achieved. Overall, the proposed development is consistent with that policy direction. It provides a mixed-use, pedestrian-oriented form along Royal Commons Road and then steps up to 6 stories toward Ryder Hesjedal Way, which reflects the height framework established for Area 2 and CD28 zone. The proposed development has been reviewed against the requirements of the CD28 Area 2 zone and is in full compliance with all zoning regulations with exception to maximum height. One point I want to flag at this stage is that the zone distinguishes between apartment buildings, which may be up to 24 meters in height, and mixed-use buildings, which are limited to 15 meters. That distinction is central to the variance requests, and I'll speak to that a little bit more in the staff analysis portion of this presentation. So as I mentioned, the applicant is requesting to vary section 10.33.5.2 of Colwood Land Use Bylaw 1989 to permit an increase to the maximum building height for a mixed-use building from 15 meters to 24 meters. Before I move on, I'll just pause here on the image so you can see the 4 stories along Royal Commons Road on the left side of the screen, and then it steps back approximately 11.5 meters before it goes up again to the 6-story residential component of the building. Although the requested variance on paper appears substantial, it's largely due to the building's mixed-use classification rather than the overall form or height. The mixed-use frontage along Royal Commons Road generally remains within the 15-meter limit, except for a small parapet reaching 15.44 meters, while the residential portion is stepped back and reaches 21.64 meters below the 24-meter otherwise permitted maximum for apartment uses in the CD28 Area 2 zone. While the application technically seeks an increase from 15 meters to 24 meters for a mixed-use building, the added height is within the residential portion and is in the area where the greater height and density are anticipated in both the OCP and the zoning bylaw. The proposal maintains a 4-story scale along Royal Commons Road and steps back before stepping up along Ryder Hesjedal Way, consistent with the intent of the CD28 Area 2 zoning. The upper stories are set back well beyond the 1.5 meter minimum, as I mentioned, approximately 11.5 meters, which is intended to reduce the perceived height from Royal Commons Road, aligning with the neighboring 4-story mixed-use building and supporting the OCP direction for pedestrian scale and appropriate height transitions. Facade articulation, a varied roof line, and individual unit articulation further reduces the massing and adds visual interest. Overall, staff consider the variance technical in nature and have worked with the applicant through this application to design mitigating height, to reduce the impacts of the height and think that the design mitigates the height impacts while advancing the objectives of the CD28 Area 2 zone, the OCP, and the South Latoria sub-area plan. In terms of public notification, development notice sign has been posted on the subject property in accordance with council policy. The Local Government Act requires written notice to be provided to all property owners and occupants who may be affected by the proposed variance in advance of the council meeting where a decision on the development's variance permit will be considered. So these were sent out and prior to this council meeting, roughly 2 weeks. So there's a few suggested options for council to consider. I'll leave the staff recommendation up on the screen for a few moments for your consideration. I'd also just like to note that Matthew Davis, VP of Development with Past Developments, also has a presentation prepared for council should they wish to see it. I'm available now or following Matt's presentation for any questions if you have them.
Thank you. Thank you. Go ahead, Jason.
Council may wish to invite public participation. We missed that component at the start of this.
Yeah, sure. So the people that haven't spoken yet, does anyone want to speak to this item? Seeing none, thank you. Before I move on to the developer, I was wondering if I can get a perspective from the chair of the Planning and Land Use Committee. Don't want to put you on the spot, Councillor. Councillor Ward, go ahead, please. Oops, Councillor Ward.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Planning and Land Use Committee did see the same presentation that's been presented by staff here. And I think there'd be value in hearing from the applicant as well. They have their perspective. I think the general sentiment at the time was that the project, the project itself it's always been known that there will be buildings of density on that location. The question just became whether or not the addition of the additional building, represented some kind of misrepresentation, I think. And the commentary varied. Certainly my perspective was that you have to also be careful what you wish for, in that the applicants can perhaps do a better job of explaining this, but they're within their right to build a 6-story building up to that sort of corner lot where you see 4 stories. So part of this proposal with this setback building allows for a public plaza area on the corner and some other amenities that fit with the community. Whereas if they were put into a position to not, to be unable to build this, conceivably you would then be left with that corner lot vacant. And I guess my comments to the committee were that, you could go from the frying pan into the fire, so to speak, in that if I'm the developer, it may not be feasible for me to build on that corner lot. I may then look to sell it. And I use the example of what's now 3554 Ryder Hesjedal as an example where it was zoned for a specific thing. It was formerly known as 360 Latoria. Sold to a different developer who then used that zoning to build something that the community certainly saw as less valuable and less appropriate a fit. So there was that piece. And I think the other piece that was an unknown at the committee time that I think there's additional light been shed on was the notion that that there was misrepresentation, that people bought this and were told, okay, you'd have ocean views and things. And I can only speak for myself, but going away from that, I have lived experience in that area. I am the one councillor here that lives in Royal Bay. I purchased a 3-story townhome on Latoria, fronting Latoria Road. And when I moved in, there was nothing in Latoria South. So I had an unencumbered view of the ocean. It was beautiful. And I had real estate agents telling me, yes, ocean view townhome. And I corrected one who went on the 3rd floor, looked out the bedroom window and said, look at this, you've got this great ocean view. And I said, well, it won't last. And she said, oh, well, no, there's a chance it could. I said, there's a slim chance it can, if there's a gap between some buildings. But I said, I've read the agreement. They're going to build things across the road here, and the height variance in these zonings is sufficient that something will be blocked. So ironically, my view was spoiled by the Eliza buildings. They came along at 4 stories and blocked that ocean view for me. And then that was further sealed when Beachlands put up buildings along Machosen Road. So since the Planning and Land Use Committee meeting, that gave me pause for thought. And I thought, well, I did my homework and I looked again at my sales agreement, and I had acknowledged when I signed off on buying a property from what was then Gablecraft, which is now Path. The document specifically stated to the effect that that these views were subject to change. And so I knew that. My neighbor didn't. My neighbor was angry and said, you know, these Eliza buildings are going to block our view. This is outrageous. My real estate agent told me I'd have an ocean view. And I pointed out that document that he had also signed that said that this wouldn't happen. And so I reached out to as part of my role as chair, I reached out to Path and said, look, can you provide me with the documentation that would have been granted to these sellers? Because one of the concerns of the Planning and Land Use Committee was that there was misrepresentation here, potentially that they were committed to ocean views. And in reading through the document, pretty lengthy, but on page 42, section G, there's a paragraph called views, light, and privacy. And then bear with me, I'm just going to read it to you. It says prospective purchasers should be aware that views from the strata lots, light exposure of the strata lots, and privacy with respect to the strata lots may be subject to change. There are no protected views within the development, and the existence or unobstructed continuation of any particular view from light exposure of or privacy with respect to any strata lot is not assured, given the ongoing development of Royal Bay. And I have it here and I'm willing to share it. It continues on for a number of more sentences, but it explicitly states that views are not guaranteed, that you do not have an ocean view. You very may well look into another building, much like I do today. So this isn't a moment where I say, okay, I'm particularly proud of saying, well, look, we found this, but I think it does identify to me that if there is any, you know, as the Planning and Land Use Committee talked about, if there's any misrepresentation or anything, I think, you know, I don't want to point the finger at the real estate industry, but people promising ocean views were maybe a little misleading. And at the end of the day, we have a personal responsibility to be aware of what we're getting ourselves into. You know, I work in the mergers and acquisitions business, so I read through legal documents every day, and a single sentence can fundamentally change the ROI or value on a deal. And you know, and that's the case here. I think the developers have made it clear that this can happen. So I wanted to bring that forward because I think it clears up a misconception that we had that perhaps you know, false promises were made or anything like that. It's in the document. Every purchaser would have signed it. You know, and that gives me pause for thought on the recommendation that came forward from the committee. That doesn't mean I don't have sympathy. Believe me, every time I look out my window and I see townhomes and I see the back of Eliza, I kind of long for the ocean view I once had. But as I say, I know that that it wasn't guaranteed, and I acknowledge that in writing. So I'll just leave you with that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Day on the questions on the presentation, please.
Yeah, just wanted to check in with regards to the percentage that would be dedicated to any commercial on the first floor, because the commons in the master development agreement was to provide more pedestrian oriented business shops, a more active street front. And it has been disappointing to see the existing businesses that have come in. I know it's a difficult proposition. The world seems organized against us who wanted to create a town setting where, you know, there would be shops that people would enjoy strolling by. But that is what we were trying to achieve through the Master Development Agreement since 1999 in Royal Bay. And it's been refined and changed and refined. And I understand we're responding to a different market. In many ways, bricks and mortar are being replaced by online shopping, and that's a reality. But I'd like to try to adhere to the fact that experiences are still really important, and there still are businesses who rely on real live clients attending their facilities. And I'm hoping that we're at least still trying to achieve that. So I'd like to know what percentage are actually commercial entities here and what percentage are residential, and refine our plan based on what the vision for this area was.
Yeah. Thank you, through the mayor. I'm
doing my best to look up the square footage, but along the Royal Commons Road, the entire frontage on the ground floor is commercial units. I don't know the exact square footage. I'm trying to look it up, but that whole frontage is required in the zoning bylaw to be commercial units. I just quickly looked up, we do have a clause in area 2. Bear with me, I'm gonna read this, it's a little lengthy, but within area 2, assembly and entertainment uses, bakery, eating and drinking establishments, personal services, pet daycares, and retail stores are the only permitted uses on the first floor of any building fronting the north parcel line in area 2, except that offices may be permitted on the first story of a mixed-use building fronting the northern parcel line in area 2 in accordance with section below that, which basically speaks to professional office and medical uses, provided they do not take up more than 50% of the total ground floor. So what that is intending to do is to activate the street and have specific uses permitted in that building that create that active street frontage, and not necessarily businesses that close at 4 o'clock in the afternoon and things like that. So it is written into the zone. So when those are built and it becomes time for business licenses to be issued, the planning team would be reviewing those applications against this bylaw to ensure that they are active businesses on that street.
So I guess it would be fairly fair to say that if it's a 6-story building and the first floor is commercial, it's 20%.
In this case, I would say it's less than 20% because it's just on that frontage on Royal Commons Road, where the first floor along Ryder would be all residential units. So it'd be probably of the total area, maybe 5%. Perhaps the applicant would have numbers that could speak to that, but it would be less than 20% because it is just required along the Royal Commons frontage, where the rest would be residential.
Okay. So I guess the point I'm making is that an area that was originally designed to be our major commercial center has already been downgraded significantly. And so it is my hope that where real feedback is coming from the community saying this isn't what we had envisioned based on the pictures, the plans, despite the details that I know they put in there and that everyone has to sign off on. I think from a planning perspective, what the city of Colwood promised to provide to our community was different than what we're seeing, because that looks like a big box from the architectural drawing, and it isn't particularly articulated or improved upon, or there doesn't seem to be a great deal being given back to as at least an homage to the plan that brought this forward. So I'm hopeful. I was hopeful that the recommendation from the Planning and Land Use Committee to try to improve this, and I recognize that there is a 4-story element with a bit of a setback for the 6-story behind that. But I feel that I would like to be able to stand in front of a building that's been built after 25 years of active planning and effort to build a new and vibrant community in Colwood, and say that I'm proud and the developer is proud of what has been built there today, 25 years later. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Councillor Jordison.
Thank you, Mayor. I had a couple questions to staff, I guess. I just wanted to ask, I'm just really curious, why can you only have a 4-story building when there's commercial on the bottom? In this case.
Through the mayor, that is a great question. That is, I mean, the bylaw was written before I'm here, so before I was part of the city, so I'm not 100% the rationale behind that. But it was written that way at the time, likely to encourage a mix of building types would be my guess. Yeah, sorry, I unfortunately don't have a better answer, Mairi. You might be able to speak to that.
Mairi, please.
Yeah, thank you. So the CD 28 zone has a maximum building height for mixed use buildings of 15 meters. So a mixed use building is one that would have residential and commercial. So that's limited to 4 stories. And then apartments has a maximum building height of 24 meters, so up to 6 stories. That is more in line with the sub area plan within the OCP that speaks to having shorter heights along Royal Commons and mixed use buildings there.
So subsequent to that, the building, I guess everybody is suggesting the building fronts onto Royal Commons, but it technically really doesn't. Like, I mean, it does, but the frontage of that building isn't on Royal Commons. So I just think that this is a real not very neat one, and that, like, I guess I'm just wondering, is it better maybe to have park amenity space on the outer edge and move the building over and do the 6 stories? Would that help with a view point?
Yeah, thank you. So in terms of your comment related to the front lot line, that the building doesn't technically front onto Royal Commons, our land use bylaw defines corner lots. We identify the front lot line as the shorter of the two. And so that is why we consider this building fronting onto Royal Commons, which is why it is required to provide commercial on the ground floor, which limits it to 4 stories, which is why they're proposing a variance to 6 stories. In terms of park, there is a portion of park to the south of that property. We do see this development within the overall development of Latoria South. We have received significant park dedication and amenities as part of their original development agreement.
Okay. I guess I just wanted to say that I think it's important to note that this application isn't being considered in isolation, and there's a future long-term care facility planned immediately to the north of this site that will look as if it's almost 8 floors by the time it's built. So I feel like I feel like this argument is really not that beneficial because there's not going to be a view for either buildings in the end. That building is going to be so large that you won't be able to see over there. So I just think I think PATH deserves some recognition for the vision and long-term planning that has gone into creating this sense of place. And you know, I'm not disacknowledging the residents who have written to us and spoken about the impact on their views. I just think that, you know, it doesn't mean that council approves every application or every variance that comes before us from PATH, but we still, you know, we have an obligation to scrutinize each one. But I just think it's fair to acknowledge that they're a developer that have worked really hard for many years toward creating a cohesive community rather than simply a collection of individual projects. And I just really appreciate that. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Council Ward.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was sort of thrust into speaking a little earlier than I planned on or envisioned on, and I think I would have preferred to have heard from the applicant as well. So I'm going to request through the chair that we do that momentarily. I did, though, want to say a couple things. I think this notion that there's a loss of commercial area is not accurate. I think the only real loss to commercial area that occurred in the Royal Bay sort of core was at that former 360 Latoria or 3554 Ryder, where the sale to a new buyer meant that the intentions for the site changed drastically. And so then they completed or met the absolute minimum standard in a 5-story building to put in about 750 square feet of commercial space. And I don't want to be this harbinger of doom here, but my thought process in this is that, you know, PATH or Gablecraft, as they're formerly known, have been the architects of this site from the outset. And the proposal they've come up with, when we look at, if you want to call it a benefit for the entirety of Royal Bay and Latoria South, is the sort of the frontage area on the Commons building, that sort of town square element, which you see probably on greater scale on the corner of Ryder and Latoria. That matters, I think, because if they were to go ahead and simply say, okay, we put them in a position of we cannot build the stepped building with the 4-story piece, then as I said, they can build a third 6-story building still. It's still going to have the same impact. By my count, there's roughly about a half dozen units that may or may not see a slight improvement on view, that ultimately, as Councillor Jordison stated, will be negated by an over 8-story plus mechanical rooms and things seniors home when that is constructed, not to mention high-rise development and things on the beachland side. So my concern really is, and I'll be very candid, in a perfect world, I would like to see nothing more than 4 stories in Latoria South. I like what Path does, but at the end of the day, I don't like 6 stories. I don't like the massing. I understand the economic condition for it. I would much prefer to see nothing higher than that, but I'm a realist, and I'm looking at the facts and the data and trying to keep emotion out of it. I lost my view and it sucked, to a 4-story. So it's relevant. 3-story, 4-story took it away. In this case, a 6-story takes away a 4-story, but they have the right to build there. And I guess my concern for the community and for the residents in Eliza is if this isn't the option, beware of what the option becomes. And that's not to say that there's anything malicious there. It's just that if I'm Path and I know the economic case and I say I have the ability to build the 5-6-story buildings economically in today's market, that makes sense. And I wouldn't begrudge them that. Now we have that parcel on the corner, but we still have that ground floor commercial space. Somebody else will come along and look to build there. Now, you might have a little laneway behind it between the 2 CD zones, as you originally saw with the real estate office on that site, but there's no guarantee you get that corner kind of amenity, that additional space. There's no guarantee that the form kind of blends in with what's there. Who knows what the future holds, I guess. And in this case, as much as I overall personally don't like it, I recognize that Path has come to the table to say, we're going to do the best we can by the commons area and what's economically viable for us. So you don't have to love something, I think, to know that it's probably best for everyone. And that's where I wanted to kind of leave my thought process. But I think some of these questions that have been raised, in fairness, we should hear from the applicant to better understand the mindset behind it.
Thank you. I'm gonna, before I'll let the applicant set up right now, I'm gonna take a 4-minute health break here, but go ahead and set up and we'll be ready for you. Thank you. take us out of a recess, and I'll turn it over to the applicant for his presentation. Over to you, Matt.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Thank you for the opportunity. I mean, between planning and some of the discussion that's already happened, I think a lot of this has been covered. So I will skip through my presentation rather quickly, but it is still, I think, a good opportunity for yourselves to ask questions of myself and Path and our intentions for the site once I'm done. So yeah, my name is Matthew Davis, VP Development with Path. I've been with the group about 12 years, and since we started building here at Royal Bay, we've delivered now about 1,000 homes, over 100,000 square feet of commercial space, parks, trails, public gathering spaces, and the infrastructure required to support Royal Bay's growth. So to summarize, again, what we're asking for today, we're seeking a development variance permit to increase the allowable height of building E, a new mixed-use building within Area 2 of the CD28 zone from 15 meters to 24 meters. As it's been communicated through staff, we really see this as a technical classification issue rather than a building form issue. Because the building includes commercial on the ground floor, it's permitted to be 15 meters in height rather than 24. And to a question that was answered earlier, I've actually typically seen the opposite, where the mixed use heights are generally higher in other municipalities. So that is something that's, I do think, unique in this case, just to answer that earlier question. So by stepping the building like we have in our proposal from 4 to 6 stories, we're able to blend these two height limits in a way that keeps the commercial frontage within the lower mixed use scale while allowing the residential portion behind it to align with the apartment height already contemplated for this area. Building E, the new building submitted as a separate application from the previous 5 on parcel B that have already been approved and are all, 4 of those 5 are 6 stories in height. We've worked closely with City of Colwood's planning department to arrive at this building form, which we feel meets the intent of the official community plan. The commercial frontage along Royal Commons is deliberately stepped back to create a public plaza that isn't required. I think the minimum step back's 4.5 meters. We've stepped the building back. It's the first floor of the building back to about 7 meters to create this plaza. The site, just as a reminder, located in the northwest corner, Ryder and Royal Commons, opposite the Royal Bay Commercial Hub, just north of the Bella Park new condominium development that's under construction. The official community plan identifies this area as a pedestrian-oriented mixed use, and building E has been designed to complete that vision. I think I'll skip through some of these. So this just gives you a sense of what's under construction so far. So north end of the site, left-hand side of the page, mixed-use rental building that's now open, occupied. And then you can see the amenity building in the middle of the site. And then to the top of the page is our next 93-unit rental building, which will deliver in the first quarter of next year. So the original site plan for the DP application submitted in 2023 shows the existing 4 buildings as part of that DP, as well as the mixed-use building, as well as the display where the previous Eliza Display Center was, and this building will be. And I'll have an overlay coming up here that will display it a little more clearly. So essentially what's happened here, the net add additional units is, I think it's 65 units, and that is because we have shortened apartment D and added apartment E. So the additional density added to the site is not just apartment E. We've taken units out of D and transferred them to E. And it's important to note for the site, we're well below the permitted density. We're permitted 2.5 FSR, and I think we're building all of parcel B to 1.65. So significantly below the maximum. So just to give you a sense of the new versus old site plan, like I said, shortened up building D, and we've added this stepped 4 to 6 story building for building E with the retail fronting Royal Commons, and the retail, to answer the earlier questions, about 2,600 square feet in that building. To give you some context on how much retail that is, the mixed use building to the east of it that just finished has about 15,000 square feet of retail. So just the original proposal versus the current, we brought that forward in 2025 with staff, and it located the building at the minimum setback at Royal Commons with a full height commercial fronting Ryder. But through consultation with city staff, we agreed to reduce the height of the commercial portion and building back to that 7 meters I mentioned earlier, well beyond the 4.5 meter setback the zoning would allow to create the public plaza. We also stepped that 6-story portion back to achieve that clean 4 to 6 story transition. So just a massing model to show the new building, as well as we did update this. The massing is not up to date, but the labeling is. So you can see that long-term care facility that is being built. It's actually 85 feet of residential construction, but our understanding with rooftop units and all the mechanical, as mentioned earlier, going to the building, it will be over 100 feet tall. It's also important to note, I just want to point out that the 6-story buildings we're building on site are actually permitted to go to 24 meters, and all of them as of now are below 22 meters, they're 21 and change. So not even building to that max height that we're permitted within those 6-story buildings. And just another look at that plaza at the corner of Ryder and Royal Commons. Really what we're trying to do there is continue. We think that Royal Commons, now if you've been down there, has really kind of been activated as sort of a high street based on the treatment of the plazas, the sidewalks, the common area. And really the intent behind this proposal is to add to that. Just a section down Ryder Hesjedal Way with the new building in the forefront there in the middle. So the completed mixed use building on the left-hand side along Royal Commons, the shops you'll notice are opening now constantly. I'm happy to let you know we're working on a restaurant pub as we speak, hopefully gonna get that open shortly. And building E there on the right-hand side with the active frontage along Royal Common, decorative hardscaping, planting beds, benches, public seating to try to create that and encourage that public interaction with the space. So just another, I mentioned this earlier, just on the permitted height. So the idea that the 4-story portion of the building is under that 15-meter height limit, with the 6-story portion being significantly below the 24-meter height limit. Another look at the measurements on the height. I think Matt shared this earlier. So let's go through that. Yeah, so just to conclude, you know, the proposed variance aligns directly with the goals of the OCP and the CD28 zone. As this OCP states, the northern boundary of Area 2 contemplates the framing for Commons Road, Royal Commons, providing the pedestrian-oriented street enclosure with an appropriate mix of land uses. Ground floor retail with commercial and or residential above. So again, just to reiterate, you know, the variance we see as a technical classification issue, and because that building includes commercial frontage, being classified as mixed use and therefore subject to that 15-meter height variance. At this point, happy to answer any questions you have.
Thanks very much, Matt. What's the square footage in the bottom of that for the commercial side right now in square feet?
Of this new building,
yeah,
about 2,600.
2,600. So the entire building, that 4-story portion of it is how many square foot would you say?
Well, so no, the retail will be under that in terms of all the floors.
Yeah, yeah.
So it must call it 10,000 square feet, the 4-story portion.
Interesting. And I know it's, this has probably never been asked, but could it be entirely commercial? Is that something you guys would do?
Again, and I hear to Councillor Dake's questions earlier, the commercial market, we've had lots of, our goals for the commons, our goals for these other sites within Royal Bay has been to get the right mix of tenants and uses.
Yeah.
We haven't seen the demand. That's the truth.
I'm asking.
Yeah.
I have an idea.
Yeah. We'd be open to that. I guess what I would say to that, Mayor Kobayashi, is we are hesitant to build product like that on spec.
Okay.
If we had a use, we would consider that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I do. So can I ask you another question? It's all related. Right now in Royal Bay Commons, the shopping. Do you own is that all your buildings and you lease them out, right?
Correct.
So you have a different business unit that looks after all that stuff?
Yeah, we own the assets. We don't property manage them in-house. We use a third-party property management company, but there are.
Okay, thanks very much.
Yeah.
And I'll open it up for other people. Councillor Grove, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, but I think you answered most of my questions. You said something about 15,000 square feet. What was that in reference to? Did I mishear you?
I was just to give context to how much retail is in this building. I said there's 2,600 and the building adjacent to it, the mixed use building, has about 15,000.
Okay, so that's another 15 from for the entire strip of that road. Yeah. Okay.
Correct.
I think that's all covered then from Mayor Kobayashi's questions. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Councillor Ward.
Thank you. And just feeding into what the mayor was asking you at, I know Path or Gablecraft has a bit of history in Calgary as well. I wonder, are you familiar with the University District there, the new development there?
I am. I've actually toured. I haven't toured it. I toured it maybe 2 years ago.
Okay.
So it's probably changed a lot since, but yes.
I was just there, and I think what interested me is that the residential component looks very similar to what we have here, right? It's 4 to 6 story, but what they've created in a relatively new area, a community much like Royal Bay is a vibrant kind of community where you've got mixed use, where you've got residential on the upper 5 floors, and commercial. And I guess when I think of the long-term vision, and I completely understand what you're saying right now about demand and on the commercial side, and then it's a bit of a sluggish go. But I'm trying to think further out than maybe past councils in Colwood have. And I envision a vibrant Royal Bay decades from now. And I look at this street, yes, what we've done in the commons is great. I think that vision there, as you said, it's starting to emerge as a bit of a high street. I think once the last few tenants are in the existing building and others, it will really round it out. But longer term, I see a vision for that to wrap around. Like I look at this building that you proposed here, Building E, and I see the commercial element on the ground floor. And I can envision a scenario whereby the future state, if there were more commercial elements along that entirety, their Building E, Building D, it then starts to dovetail into the retail commercial element that other developers are building down further. I'm trying to place the name, but I think you know what I mean, the more ground-oriented ones there. And so there's some connectivity, because right now I sort of see this patchwork approach where we've got this sort of outdoor shopping plaza down opposite the museum, very pedestrian-oriented kind of area. And then we would have strictly residential for like a very quiet, just walkable street that comes up, when in fact, when I look at that university district, and I would encourage anyone to kind of Google it, take a look at it. You've got various cafes and restaurants and other services and things that fill in that space. The type of thing that, some of them on like this corner, for example, would be open later and a bit more vibrant. Some of them being professional services and things that would close at a regular business hours so that the residents aren't disturbed. But I just wonder, in terms of timeline, I'm really going on here. I apologize to everybody. But in terms of timeline and where this development is it feasible to leave that option open, over the next little while, just to see, can we work together and see, talk about economic development? Can we do something here like that and be flexible on, on trying to find partners and other things to explore something like that?
Yeah, I think so. I think, as the mayor probably would acknowledge we have a great working relationship with the city of Colwood and yourselves, and we're always open to talk about those opportunities. Specifically with this site, I think one of the challenges is we have residents now living in the building adjacent. So one of the things we're trying to accomplish is get this building going soon so that we can sort of complete that portion of the community. One of the things we're a bit concerned about is just general safety in that area, because you got a building that's going to be complete in March on the other side. You've got this building and you've got the amenity building right behind. So we're trying to create that hub. To answer your question though, specifically, we're open to looking at those opportunities as time goes. But we have been pretty amazed at how challenging the commercial piece has been. If you look at like our premier corner of the project, arguably, is the corner of Ryder and Latoria, and we couldn't find someone for that space. We were picky. We didn't want the same as what we already had. We wanted a restaurant, and ultimately, you see, we ended up putting our Bella Park Presentation Center in it because we couldn't fill it. So we're certainly open to opportunities. We just, we've engaged with Colliers, have been engaged with them for the last few years, and they've been out looking for tenants, and it's just been quiet.
Sure, no, and that's a fair answer. I mean, the market is what it is. So I'll leave it there. Thank you.
Councillor Jensen.
Thank you, Your Worship. I mean, it's tough to process some of these ideas without seeing it before us, but I appreciate the discussion. I look at this and it's oftentimes we hear, it doesn't fit with the neighborhood, but what I see there certainly looks similar to the building immediately across the street or side by each. And I do accept that this is a technical issue, more so than really someone coming in to try and jam in a few more suites, with an additional floor. I hear the residents, I really do. And I can't count the number of times that this council sat here at this table trying to explain, that people have been let down by the real estate industry. And I think there's a lesson in there for certainly for developers who are partnering with different firms and putting together their sales packages and their portfolio. So I do accept that. And I can envision realtors saying what they need to say to get a signature on a document. But the other part is I mean, nothing I see here is out of line. There was discussion along the way, and I've been here since, I guess, really since the early days of when this was starting to be built. And there's lots of discussion about multi stories, like 20 stories and stuff, which is come and gone over the few years. So I mean, again, what I see here is not out of line. I'm certainly not opposed to what I see, and in fact, I quite like the plaza area and the availability of some store frontage. Thank you, Worship.
Thank you very much. I'm just looking at this right now. The recommendation is to send it back to staff, but I don't think you can add anything more. Can you, staff?
At this stage, I feel like one of the things that was missed in the planning and land use committee meeting was just discussing that we have worked with the applicant pretty significantly. The initial application that we received was 6 stories. As Matt showed in his presentation, it was kind of 6 stories almost right up to the edge of the property line, and we've worked with them to step it back significantly as he showed. So I feel like we could always maybe have further discussions, but I think we've made significant progress from what we initially received as an initial application.
Yeah, I'm just looking for a staff recommendation because
my presentation has the staff recommendation from the planning and land use committee that hopefully would suffice. The staff recommendation was to approve. I think that is that is the one.
Okay, that's the one there. Okay. Councillor Jensen, you still hot there? Okay, yeah, you're just moving. Thank you, Worship. Can I get a seconder, please? Okay, Councillor Grove. Further discussion. Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? Seeing none, motion carries unanimous. Thanks very much. Okay, we'll move on to 8.2. Mr. Johnson, introduce the speakers, please.
Thank you, through the mayor to members of council. This is development variance permit application DVP 0023446 Pelican Drive. The recommendation is that development variance permit number DVP 0023 for the lands at 446 Pelican Drive be approved, which would have the effect of superseding the condition imposed by DVP 0907 requiring that the highest floor be no higher than the highest street level fronting the property, thereby permitting the use of the existing upper floor area above the garage as part of the principal residence, and that all remaining provisions and conditions under DVP 0907 remain full in effect and in force. There is a staff presentation should you wish to receive it, and Kaitlyn Suzuki, our planner one, can provide that should council wish to receive that.
Okay, thank you. Your report was very good. It's very straightforward. I'm just going to open it up to questions here from council, and I will open with Councillor Jordison.
Thank you, Mayor. I just had a question. I was concerned about the sequence here. The report says a building permit was issued in July to finish the upper floor area. And then following a review of the property's approval history, staff determined that a variance was required. So can staff explain how we issued the building permit before identifying the restriction in the existing DVP?
Thank you for the question through the chair. So when the building permit was initially reviewed, it was reviewed largely against our land use bylaw. Since the works proposed were all interior, there were no, it aligned fully with our bylaw regulations. So it wasn't until afterwards that we realized that there was this old development variance permit. At the time, staff didn't go looking for development variance permits since no variances were required.
Okay. And just from that, I just wanted to ask, because the condition originally formed part of the rationale for allowing increased building height on the Pelican Drive properties, do you know how many other properties remain subject to it, and should council expect similar applications in the future?
Thank you for the question. I would have to just pull it up. But I do think there were multiple properties within the subdivision that were subject to this variance. I believe it's 7 lots that were permitted the increased building height from the 8.5 to the 10.5 meters. And I believe one of which already previously applied for a variance to increase the height without this condition.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Jensen?
Yeah. Thank you, Worship. Quite frankly, we don't see these come forward that often that are homeowner driven and not developer driven. And quite frankly, I had the pleasure of having a rec room for my kids. So God bless. And I would love to move this recommendation and move on, Your Worship. Thank you.
Okay, I'll flip around. I'll let people ask questions. Councillor Olson?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Kaitlyn. My question really was just staff indicate that there was a notification that was provided within 100 meters. And I was just wondering if there have been any concerns or objections received since the report was was prepared. I understand there was some windows removed that were potentially facing neighborhood properties. So I was just wondering if that was complaint driven or if there have been any concerns raised from neighbors.
Thank you. And through the chair, there was concerns from the neighboring property at one point. We have, I believe today, after we did receive a letter from the neighbor that was included the materials for the agenda today, speaking to how they were no longer concerned. Other than that, we've had, I know of and someone asking questions about it at the front counter, but no other concerns have come in.
Okay, so one complaint and it was resolved.
Yeah,
thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Day?
Thank you. Just always being the council historian, there were a number of issues in the area resulting from new builds that took place after there were trying to think of the name of that, when they have building conditions on a subdivision, which are registered on title, but they didn't flow from the city. They flowed from the original development. And then subsequently, there was a number of concerns around height and loss of views because it is a lovely view area. So I believe that's where they come from. So I just think it's really important that we find a way to document our history in those regards so that if we're not remembering it, we're also not protecting the people who are expecting to be protected. So just trying to keep our history straight. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Councillor Jensen, you want to make the motion seconder, please? Okay, Councillor Grove, discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. Any opposed? Seeing none, motion carries unanimous. And we'll move on to 8.3, the DVP 00018-221 Goldfinch Road. Mr. Johnson, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through the members of council, this is development variance permit number DVP 0018. The recommendation is for these lands that this variance be approved, which would have the effect of varying section 6.14.3 of subdivision and development servicing bylaw number 2020-24 to permit an increase to the maximum allowable driveway with a corner lot from 7 meters to 22.8 meters to provide access to the 2 proposed duplexes on the subject property, and that staff work with the applicant to incorporate permeable paving materials with the driveway areas through the development variance process. There is a staff presentation should you receive it, and Matt Blakely, our senior planner, has that information, or alternately we can answer questions that council may have.
Okay, thank you. Matt, could you proceed with the presentation? Thank you.
All right, thank you again, Mayor and Council. So the purpose of this presentation is to provide a high-level summary of development variance permit application number DVP 00018 for the property located at 221 Goldfinch Road. A more detailed analysis and supporting information are provided in the staff report as always. The subject property located in the Lagoon Beach neighborhood is near Lagoon Road, is currently zoned R1 residential and is within the OCP land use designation neighborhood hillside and shoreline. The property features a continuous corner frontage along Goldfinch Road and has an area of roughly 0.31 acres or 1,278 square meters. The property currently contains an existing single-family residential dwelling. In terms of surrounding context, the broader neighborhood is also primary R1 residential. Development is mainly single-family homes, both freehold and strata, with some 2-family dwellings nearby. So this proposal, you'll recognize it as it's related to 2 applications, a rezoning application to establish the proposed CD 45 zone, which is also on tonight's council agenda, as well as a form and character development permit for the proposed development of 2 duplex buildings with each unit including a secondary suite. The variance before council this evening is required because the combined driveway widths proposed along the corner lot frontage exceed the bylaw maximum. Staff are bringing the driveway variance forward this evening alongside the zoning amendment because the variance relates to the city's subdivision and development servicing bylaw, not the proposed land use or zoning regulations. Considering these items together helps resolve key bylaw matters at the same time and provides greater clarity and certainty for the project. So the specific request, as I said, is to vary section 6.14.3 of the subdivision and development service and bylaw. The bylaw permits a maximum driveway width of 7 meters on a corner lot The applicant is requesting 22.8 meters in total, with 11.96 meters for duplex block 1 and 10.84 meters for block 2. The key question is whether the additional width is justified by the site constraints and the resulting access design. So I'll just pause here. As you can see, we measure the width for the driveways in this instance at property line. So the driveways do taper as they get towards the right of way, but as I said, we measure at the property line, which is why the distances are so large. So the original proposal in 2025 included 4 separate driveways. Through staff review, the design was revised to provide the 2 shared driveways, as I was just showing you, with each driveway serving 1 duplex building and its secondary suites. This approach reduces the number of driveway crossings and better aligns with the city development permit design guidelines, which encourage shared service areas and consolidated driveways across sidewalks. However, the city's subdivision and development servicing bylaw limits the combined driveway width on corner lots to 7 meters, as I mentioned. And the applicant is proposing 22.8, necessitating this variance request. So the increased width is largely driven by the site's physical constraints. The lot is shallow, irregular in shape, and subject to setback requirements that limit building placement. As a result, there is limited room for driveways to taper while still providing required parking and safe functional access. Staff also note that the previous 4 driveway concept would likely have resulted in similar overall driveway width when combined and would have required an additional variance for the number of driveways. The revised 2 driveway design therefore better aligns with the bylaw, even though width variance is still required. The revised design does increase hard surfacing in the front yard and therefore is not fully aligned with the OCP guidelines that seek to reduce the visual and environmental impacts of large driveway areas. To help address this, council may wish to consider a condition requiring the applicant to work with staff to incorporate permeable pavers, grasscrete, or a similar treatment for the driveways. So in summary, staff support the requested variance because the proposed driveway width is driven by the site's physical constraints, including the shallow lot depth, corner lot configuration, and setback requirements that limit building placement. The revised design consolidates access into 2 shared driveways rather than 4, which reduce the driveway crossings and better aligns with the city's development permit guidelines. And while staff recognize the variance request is significant, staff are of the opinion that the oversized driveways are necessary to provide safe, functional access to the proposed duplexes and their secondary suites. Just to note, this was brought up as part of the zoning amendment application, but there is a 2-meter municipal road dedication that's required along the frontage of this development. This is to achieve an overall 18-meter right-of-way width along the subject property's frontage. This dedication would be required, or this dedication has been approved and is now done in advance of council considering the amending bylaw for adoption tonight. So just quickly, the development has also been reviewed against the proposed CD45 zone and complies with all of the listed zoning regulations. Development sign has been placed on the property and postcards outlining the variance requests were mailed to neighbors within 100 meters of the property prior to this evening's meeting. Come on. And then finally, these are some options to consider for council, and I will just leave the staff recommendation on the screen for your consideration. If necessary, the applicant is here to answer any questions you may have, and both Mr. Rosenberg and myself are available should you have any questions for staff. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good presentation. Councillor Day, questions?
Thank you. I'd like to confirm that there is sufficient parking within the driveways for both the suite and the home to park their vehicles without parking across a pedestrian pathway?
Through the chair, thank you for the question. Yes, there's significant space. There's there's a garage which would accommodate a vehicle, and then two spaces, one in tandem and then one beside for the secondary suite. So probably the most conflict would be on the right side of the screen if there was guests over or things like that, but it would generally, I don't see any conflict in terms of what is required as per our parking bylaw.
But for them to park outside of their garage, they would be able to fit without interfering with the pedestrians realm there?
Yes, the gray blocks on the image there represent the space that a vehicle would take up. So there's still several meters before where the sidewalk would be.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Jordison.
Thank you, Mayor. I just had a quick question. It says here, like the second part of the motion even, about I just want clarification about the proposed mitigation of the permeable paving. It's important enough to address the amount of hard surface being approved. So I just want to understand why staff is simply why is being directed to simply for staff to work with the applicant rather than making that an explicit condition. Sarah.
Thank you for the question through the mayor. That was put in as a condition just because the development permit is approved by staff. So if this variance was granted, then we would have the set driveway area, and then staff can work with the applicant to determine an appropriate level of permeability for the driveway. And we would work with them through that before approving the development permit.
Okay.
So that's why it's worded that way. Council can suggest a stronger condition, but that is why it's worded that way, is because before we would issue the development permit, we would work with the applicant.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Grove.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm just asking, is that red strip the sidewalk?
That red strip represents the 2-meter dedication. The actual road cross section, I don't know if John can speak to that, if it's already figured out yet, but
the road cross section would have the sidewalk basically in that red area because it is at the property line.
Yeah, so I noticed out to the party on Saturday night, music in the park. There were a lot of cars parked along this strip of road, so it's very narrow and there's a wet ditch on either side. It's a little tricky. So I'm just wondering about the potential for improving that road as the park increases its use, and the issue of because there's a corner right there too. So I'm not really doubting the improvement or this particular application. It's more of how it applies to its relationship to the road and the road itself.
They'd be required to do their frontage works to the center line of the right of way. So you'll see formalized curb on the house side of it, but you won't see a formalized curb on the opposite side.
Which should improve the walking experience, which I suffered there on significant. Cars are leading. Everybody's very respectful. It was not a problem, but it's a bit tight.
Yeah, they'd be off the roadway under the new build.
Thanks.
Okay. Councillor Ward.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I recall this from the Planning and Land Use Committee, and I was just looking at the original diagrams with the 4 driveways, and it's not very often you can consolidate point of entry to roads that actually would improve the efficiency of the road. It's kind of a unique opportunity, and when you compare the two, to me, it's just a no-brainer, particularly how it tapers once you hit the 2-meter dedication. So I'd like to move the staff recommendation.
Okay, great. Timing's perfect. Seconder, please. Councillor Jordison. Discussion. Seeing any, call the question. Any opposed? Seeing none, motion carries unanimous. Thank you very much. We'll move on. We are now at 8.4, website action plan. Mr. Johnson. Oh. You want to speak to this? Come on up, Trev.
There we go. Mr. Mayor, Council. I didn't think I'd be back here quite this early. I should apologize probably. I'm speaking to the website again. We've got the current status, the action plan status report. We've got 4 specific concerns. The directory, Council directed the restoration of the staff directory. The report describes the existing contact model, which predates the motion and marks the item as complete. With respect, it is not complete. The BC government's decision to remove its own directory 4 days ago has been immediately criticized by BC's own Information and Privacy Commissioner, who called it a regrettable and very serious transparency issue and encouraged public bodies not to follow suit. Saanich, Oak Bay, Esquimalt, Sydney, and the CRD itself all still publish staff directories. We ask Council to confirm its direction and require a specific implementation plan. The bylaws repository. The bylaws improvement are welcome. However, the repository lacks a search function. Council's direction specifically required a searchable repository. The Council motion tracker. We cannot find the March 9th, this is an example, we cannot find the March 9th motion directing staff to collaborate with Langford on solid waste collection. A unanimous decision with potential savings of over $280 per household. If that motion is absent, the tracker is not yet comprehensive. We ask staff to confirm its completeness. The policies underpinning the website date from 2009 and 2014.
I'll let you wrap up.
They are foundational documents and they are seriously outdated. We ask Council to direct that they be reviewed and updated as a priority. We genuinely acknowledge the progress made. The bylaw improvements, the motion tracker, the development tracker work, but the staff directory has been outstanding since December 8th, 2025. And really, it's the staff directory that started this whole thing off in the first place. Now, more than 8 months with the election 7 weeks away, we respectfully ask Council to act on its commitment today. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay. Mr. Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. This is the website action report. The motion is to receive the report, and staff are here to answer any questions. There aren't a presentation to go with this. We're still within the timeline of the 90 days that council gave us the direction to have these improvements. This is considered the interim report at this point, providing the direction that you've given and where we're at to date. And staff are here to answer questions you may have regarding this report, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Open it up for questions from council. Councilor Day, please.
Thank you. Yeah, it's funny that I didn't speak to the Royal Bay Homeowners Association, but we came to the same conclusions. And I'm concerned that when I won't look too hard for it, but when I was reading the report, and I'm very impressed that it's here already, that's great. But it says that they're substantially complete. And I don't feel that that is the case because what I heard from not just the Royal Bay Homeowners Association, but others who contacted council was that they wanted to have the ability to contact specific staff members where they've been dealing with an issue already, that they don't have to tell the story all over again. And we haven't provided that yet. So I wanted to say that the staff directory part for me, it doesn't accomplish. I mean, I can think of lots of out of the box ways that we could do something around the mulberry bush that could prevent us from having spam Zilla problems. But at the same time, I think the basic principle is there that we still need a staff directory so that if you're dealing with somebody here at the city on an issue, that you can recontact them if that issue comes up again. So I think that that is an issue. I think the governance ownership, that's great that we have a place where it belongs, but the part that is missing is the departments verifying the data, and that has not been happening, and has not been happening since about 2022, because I just constantly run into things where it hasn't gotten updated. So we need, I'm not saying this to be hard on anyone. We need a better process. And our report tonight also included captures or kind of screenshots of what has been done on the website. And those reflect the kind of poor digital quality that I often find on the website that I find frustrating because I'm getting old and wearing these and they get smudgy, and if it's blurry, I can't hardly read it. So I'm sure I'm not alone in finding that frustrating. And then we have quite a few data points that I've identified as being needing to be updated that have been only partially updated. Development stats, for one. We only have 3/4 of 2025 on there still. So I'm not satisfied that we're taking the feedback that the public is giving us as seriously as we need to. And I think that we need to find a better way to get that website updated. So, because that's free. That's free to get our residents reviewing it for us and telling us, hey, you missed a spot over here. And we could really make use of their help. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Yeah, one of my frustrations right now, I'll give you direct feedback, is, that developer tracking, if you don't want to keep it up to date, then why the hell would we have it in there? Pardon my language, but that's frustrating. It really is frustrating. Have up to date information. My goodness, it just doesn't make sense. But please, Mairi.
Yeah, thank you. So the development tracker, which is a new tool that we have on our website, is linked to Tempest. And so when we have new applications, they are automatically updated onto our website. We have limitations in the statuses that we can provide. So for development permits, we typically just provide the submission date and the issuance date.
Okay.
For rezoning applications, we are able to include when it would go to planning and land use and when it would go forward for readings at council.
So is there a better way to indicate that without creating a lot more work for yourself right now? But it's frustrating because, and then, I get more current information, and then the public is looking at information that's old. Like I can go to you, for example, and get more current information. But I know using that development tracker, it wasn't current. Like I can show you examples of this has happened, where I was just querying some things right now. So that is a bit frustrating. So the public should have the same access as we have. And I'm lucky because I can go walk down to your office and ask. So that's what the issue is more. And if it isn't quite up to date, just to have maybe just some way we can signal that it isn't up to date so that people know that that's not the most current thing they should be using. I don't know how to do this, and I'm just suggesting this to you. It is a frustration though. So I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I understand this now. You've contextualized it for me, so thank you very much. But there's got to be a way if it isn't quite up to date, then we got to have an ability to say that there, I guess.
So I would say for rezoning applications, I would say those types of applications are generally more up to date. It's development permits that we do not put the plans up on the website when they submit them, because we have an internal review process where we may receive 3 different iterations of plans. And so we were not going to put up those different iterations on the website because that could cause confusion. So we have only been putting up development permits once they are issued. I would say the development permit delegation bylaw, of course, is going this evening to council for first, second, and third reading. So development permits will be more up to date on the development tracker once they do go to council, because they'll be on the agenda and we will be able to put that up on the development tracker.
Great explanation. It just requires that explanation when people are at it, that if it's not there, the reason why it hasn't been approved. Something like that. Just an indication. Yeah.
Yeah, perhaps we can consider putting up some wording about what to expect for each type of application.
Okay, thank you. Councilor David, please.
Thank you. I find it difficult when we ask for action and we get excuses, and I'm sorry, but telling us that it's in Tempest and so that is needs to be addressed. I mean, you can't just tell me we can't do it. Like that is not acceptable. We are trying to be transparent with our public, and whether you make a PDF and upload it through corporate services or do something, if we're going to tell people what we're doing, we need to tell people what we're doing and not make excuses. Well, we'll tell you about rezonings, but we won't tell you about development permits. So I think we need to know, and there needs to be some clarity for the public to see what's coming.
Okay, this was just for receipt. Oh, sorry, Councilor Jordison, please.
Sorry, Mayor, just a last minute question. I guess with seeing the concern around point 1, seeing that it is completed, but I'm hearing that council doesn't feel that it is. I'm just wondering, could staff explain whether they're asking council to reconsider that portion of its direction rather than considering it completed?
I don't think we're looking for reconsideration. I think staff continue to explore and monitor how other communities and the province are approaching this, and will work to implement a solution that serves.
Okay, thank you.
And just for council's clarification, we'll bring this is the interim report saying these are the steps we've made to date. We've heard council's feedback. We've heard feedback from the community. We will take that on board and adjust course as necessary. One of the things we're trying to balance is cybersecurity risk, insurance that we have through cybersecurity, which requires we have certain components that are in and certain components that are out. We understand council's feedback. We will make sure that we rectify that in the next update to council.
Thank you. Okay, that was just for information. So we'll move on to 8.5, 2027 budget approach. Unfortunately, Kathy McLennan wasn't able to join us this evening. And I can't expect you to answer all the questions, Mr. Johnson, but we do have a few comments. So if you want to proceed, please, and on this item.
Nothing further.
Yeah, you've got a report. Oh, go ahead, please. You weren't here in the beginning of public participation, so I didn't know if you wanted to speak. So
there we go. We like the direction of this proposed approach. We're a little concerned that it's not detailed enough for you to actually give the endorsement that staff are asking for. We think the endorsement should be, the direction is great. Now you've got to put some meat on the bones of this thing and let us know, what does a light touch mean? What kind of information do we need before we can just take that light touch, so that people understand what you're trying to what you're trying to accomplish. We support the direction. We encourage council to endorse it, but we also encourage council to recognize that the framework still needs some work before the detailed 2027 budget process begins. The other issue, of course, is how much direction are you going to provide in terms of the 2027 budget process as a council when you've got a new council coming into play in November? And how much are you going to constrain that group of folks? And hopefully you'll all be back. But in the event that you're not, I think you've got an obligation to the new council to make sure that they have the kind of flexibility they need in order to provide a good 2027 budget process.
Thank you. Thanks very much. Okay, I'll just open the floor for questions. Councillor Jordison, please.
Thank you, Mayor. CAO, I have a question about, and I'm not sure you'll be able to answer it, but like what could trigger an out of cycle service review? And can you confirm that council would still receive annual service plans and the organization-wide staffing picture for every department?
I can confirm both of those. The intention is to show the overall FTE count and any proposed changes to that. Any changes to the FTEs will require a business case that will come in front of council. That is what Ms. McLennan had suggested was the exceptions. So those exceptions are anything over and above what the existing FTE count. That will be in each department so that council can see that and determine if the appropriate service level is met. We've taken council's feedback about the service review process being perhaps somewhat arduous from what I've heard from council in the past. And what we want to do is provide this in a meaningful way. What Ms. McLennan did was provide an overall view, which is what council had asked for in the motion. What will the budget process look like? That, of course, will be shaped entirely by council. It is council's budget. So we want to make sure that we're meeting what your expectations are. One of the things that we didn't benefit from this year was the implementation of our new software, Questica, and that's going to have a web-based component and it will be live. So people can track expenses as they're put into the various budgets, and you will see that. I've been part of an organization that switched over to the Questica, and it is quite a tool in terms of on the fly showing where changes are, what they look like. The rollout was intended to be for this year, but from a staffing component, we just couldn't get that across the line. That will be in conjunction with the budget process, and we'll have that outlined for council's feedback, new council, to make sure that we're meeting the expectation of what council would like to see in the budget process. So think of this as, here's the global overview of what it looks like, and we'll get into much more of the details when the framework comes forward to council with those budget proposals.
Okay, sorry, I just had one other, once every 4 years kind of concerns me a bit. You know, a budget problem doesn't necessarily arrive as a new initiative. Sometimes it's an existing program with staffing contracts or operating costs that have gradually increased. So is there a way to manage that at the same time?
Absolutely. You know, one of the intentions behind this is getting public engagement and sending a survey out. What do you think of these services? And that will give council a framework to see how the public is receiving the service and whether or not the service level is meeting expectations, whether it's below or whether it's above. Those will be considerations for council, because that's council's feedback, is the service levels, are they appropriate for the services we're providing? For instance, this year we've had an issue with boulevard maintenance, and it's one of our number one complaints that we've received. We're actioning that outside of the budget process with what we've got with our existing complement. Having said that, our intention is to bring forward those issues that have arisen in the year, to bring some of those service considerations for council for some of those areas that we need to look at, as well as the existing services and value for money. I know that that's what council is looking for in the metrics, and that new software system is really going to help us transform that budget process to be much more inclusive and provide much more detailed information to council and the public for the ongoing operations for the tax dollars that people put into our community.
Thank you. Councillor.
Thank you. I'm aware, just because of how long I've been around the table that eventually there's some big axes on the wall that tend to be looming larger in certain years than others, but they're always going to be there, whether it's police services, sewer services. Sometimes they're outside of our control, and sometimes they need greater perspective to keep bringing the things that we tend to forget about all the time back to the forefront. Remember that we need to set aside funding for the day when the big changes have to be made, whether it's, new buildings, new equipment, new infrastructure. It gets very hard to balance if they all show up at the same time. So one thing that I would like to see come back with our budget process is to try to capture a few of the axes that are on the wall each year, just to review them and put them in perspective and work towards our long-term plan for how we'll get there. And that's just sort of the one part of the review plan that we have before us that I feel needs to be fleshed out a little bit. And I know we've talked about them, but most of the time we said, we're running as fast as we can. We can't get to that this year. And until it absolutely can't be avoided. And then we're in it. We've got to deal with it. So I'm hoping that we will at least try to identify those so that we don't forget about them as we get gleeful.
One of the intentions behind the budget process is we have a number of master plans, those that have been approved, those that are in process. And what we don't want to have is council have to lift up all of these different plans and cross-reference and come back. Our intention is to show what those proposed amendments were to the master plans that are adopted so that they get wrapped into the budget process. But also really important is our operational plan, which will say this is what we intended to achieve this year. This is what we achieved, and these are the pieces that we weren't able to get to. You look at council's motion tracker as well. There's a number of motions that are outstanding that we need to bring to the forefront, and those motions don't go off into the ether per se, but council turns their attention to the ones that are still outstanding that should form part of that budget process. So the intention is to wrap the strategic plan, the operational plan, and the financial plan along with the survey of the residents. So council has a complete picture when you're looking at the budget, so you're not losing those pieces, Councillor Day, that you've spoken about here.
Yeah, I think the difficulty has been that a lot of our planning has been done. What should our plan be for X, Y, or Z? And it hasn't really put all those pieces together. So hopefully we get there, but I think it's important if we plan for it, we'll carve a little piece off each year.
Have you spoken already, Councillor Jordison? Well, okay, I'll speak for the first time. So I quickly talked to you about this, Mr. Johnson, before the meeting, and that's this what came from a citizen, great idea, and that is how we select which service that we review, and that risk-based approach is a really good approach. And I'll just send you all the criteria. I came up with my own, and some were suggested to me. So that's one thing that I think that we need to have. The second thing is, given the affordability pressures right now, I think we need to have a specific process for identifying savings and prioritizing services before we start asking taxpayers for additional revenue. So I think that's important. That's the second thing. And the last thing is my biggest bee in my bonnet. And yes, I'm sorry I came from the private world, but the way that we do budgeting is just ass backwards to me. We look at all our costs, and then we start matching revenues to it and start tax increases. But I think that the starting place that we have to start at is we have a good idea what our NCT is, our new construction taxes are. We know what the previous taxes are. You put inflation in there. We can come up with a fairly plus or minus 5-10% of what that revenue is going to be. And the reason why I think we have to look at it from that side of the fence instead of going with cost, it happens to us every year here. And it's not just here, it's every council, it's the CRD. We all look at, everybody wants this, they want that, everyone's got a pet project. And then the bill comes in at the end of the year, and then the staff look at us and go, well, you guys approved it all. So what do you want us to do? So that's not fair to you. Like, it's not fair, because then we're going back, well, we'll cut it, like, don't ask us. But yet we approved it because it's so easy to approve things piecemeal because you don't understand what the impact is to your revenues. So I think we have to start thinking differently. I'd like to get that other different thinking cap on. This is what our revenues are, and if we want to stay in there within that and keep taxes low, we try to match costs as we go along, and we can still do single approvals, but we'll understand the impacts as we're going along. So I'd like that approach. I'd like to flip the pyramid the way that we think. And because it happens every time, every year, and we look at each other and we say the same darn thing. Geez, I wish we did it differently. But it's the way that's embedded in municipal government right now. That's how they do things. So, and if we're going to be asking for tax increases, at least we'll consciously know what we're going to be doing. We don't have to worry about after the fact and say, how are we going to message this? We'll know right up front. So go ahead, Jason.
Thank you. And part of the mandate that council's given to me was look at how do we rationalize some of the services we've done, and we've done that throughout this year. And that will be reflected in the upcoming budget to show where that rationalization of services happened. But we live by the ethos of better as possible in everything that we do. And there's better work that can be done here. And what Ms. McLennan has outlined, I think is a good process, good improvements. That's not to say that this is the panacea to solving them all at this point, but council will provide direction to staff to ensure that we're meeting what your expectations are. And the intention about this report was to say, this is the framework, and what are some of the other value adds that council would like to see? And we'll take those under advisement and bring those forward to council through the budget process.
Okay. Councilor Jordison.
Thank you, Mayor. Just further to what the mayor said, I think I think council needs to establish what affordability means, and like where in these guiding principles does affordability for the taxpayer sit? And I guess what I'm trying to say is I think council needs to decide or provide direction about the tax increase council considers acceptable before the draft budget is even constructed. And then and then the same thing before considering new initiatives, council should be shown the projected tax increase required to maintain existing service levels. And then from there, we can establish existing services and new staffing, new initiatives, and the capital and debt and that sort of thing. So I think that just makes it more transparent. So that was just my comment. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councilor Day.
I'll be very quick because I know it is my second time speaking to this item, but I've been asked in previous years to decide before I've seen anything what percentage tax increase I would find tolerable. And I can't do that. I need to know what it's going to cost to keep the lights on and the car running and the rain from coming through the roof. I don't want to know, what pet projects we can afford to do. So I think we need to start with that baseline. First of all, just what is the smallest for the core services to continue to exist, and then work our magic from there. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We're all singing from the same song sheet here. So I know what the motion that's been recommended, but we want to make some alterations. Can we do this? How do you suggest we do this, Mr. Johnson?
This is just the overview report. Council will have the opportunity to shape the process in another upcoming meeting where we'll say, here's the process. What's your expectation with more details than what you see here today?
Okay, because the motion is to endorse. So I'm just. Right, it's to endorse the approach.
And
including-
we've heard council's feedback,
Okay.
and we'll come back with
Okay, thank you.
amendments to that.
Okay. So we don't need a motion then, right, at this point in time? Okay, that's great. Oh, that's great. Thank you. I appreciate that. So I'll move on to, we added 8.6, which is the age-friendly community plan review engagement strategy. Over to you, Councillor Day.
Thank you. I just wanted to speak to the age-friendly plan because I feel that we're at risk of having the same rinse and repeat happen here, which is that we go to a great deal of trouble, we engage a bunch of people to get information and feedback, and then we put the plan back on the shelf and nothing happens with it. So my big bright idea was not huge, it's a small ask, and I'm asking that it come back at the budget time to use that building of the age-friendly plan to jump off and engage with people, and then have in our budget $1,000 or $2,000 for a capital project to support the age-friendly plan. I don't know if it's going to be a bench, a picnic table, an event where there's intergenerational participation, and I'm not asking for you to decide what that number is now, but I'm saying it makes a lot of sense if you're going to go to all this trouble to engage your public and talk about what they need and try to make things better in our community for our age in place, intergenerational awareness. Let's put some money with that so that at least for the effort, people feel they got something out of it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Jordison. Sorry.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to, I guess I was just concerned that, following what Councillor Day said, that it might just be the kind of same document. And I just want to make sure that we don't inadvertently define age-friendly primarily through an active transportation lens. For an 80 or 90-year-old resident, being age-friendly may mean just a bench halfway up the hill, or accessible parking, or a washroom close by. So I think the success of this review isn't going to be whether we produce a good age-friendly community plan, but whether an older resident can eventually point to something in Colwood and say that made it easier for me to continue living in my community. But I really do appreciate what's been brought forward, and I hope we're going to figure out a way to maybe reach the senior who isn't so connected to like Chiralium or Wanda Fuca Senior Society or a community organization. So like I'm thinking like a person that is aging alone in their own home, and someone who doesn't use social media, or a person that doesn't drive. That those make actually those are probably some of the people whose experiences we need to understand the most, right? But I really appreciate that you're involving the younger generation. I think that's a really cool idea. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Okay, that was just receipt anyway, so I'm gonna move on to number 9, which thank you very much for the input, Councillor Jordison and Councillor Day on that very important points that you've made. Let's go to section 9 bylaws, proposed development permit delegation bylaw. Mr. Johnson, I guess that report is pretty self-explanatory. There is an exception though that I'd like to make to this. That's 1764 Island Highway. We want to change that to council approval authority. Any other comments, council, on the report? Councillor Jordison, please.
Thank you, Mayor. I've actually found some inconsistencies in this, and yeah, I just wanted to bring them forward here. Just let me see where they are. So there's an A B section. What is it in the bylaw? It's actually in the bylaw. And it says that master plan community means lands that are subject to an area plan, and it has an A and B section, and then it says for the purpose of this bylaw, the following are designated as master plan communities, the 1, 2, 3. But then it says council may by bylaw amendment designate additional areas as master planned communities where the requirements of paragraphs A and B have been satisfied. And I guess I can understand that for A, but B have been designated by council by bylaw as a master plan community for the purpose of this bylaw. So I feel like we're just doing like that circle thing. So it may be just a miss. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you very much for the question. So it would be an amending bylaw, so a bylaw amendment to add a new master plan community to this bylaw.
Okay. Okay, so bylaw amendment. Okay, that makes sense. What's the other one here? Sorry, there was one other one. The 4 unit threshold has an odd integration with the moratorium. The report notes that council has already directed a moratorium on form and character permits for developments for 4 units or fewer, although the 4 unit threshold remains in the delegation bylaw. That's the other question I had.
Yeah, thank you for the question. So the 4 units really is a delegated authority threshold. So we had to develop that threshold of 4 units to be clear that developments of more than 4 units would require approval from council. So it's simply just a threshold only. As you mentioned, developments of 4 units or less currently have a moratorium placed on the requirement for a form and character development permit. I would add for those developments, if they fall within an environmental or hazard development permit area, they would still require that development. That moratorium is only for form and character development permits.
Okay, thank you for the explanation.
Any other questions? Can I get a motion for the recommendation with the exception of the change of 1764 Island Highway being changed to council approval authority? Okay, thank you. Councilor Olson and Councilor Ward. Discussion. Not seeing any further discussion. I'll call the question. Any opposed? Seeing none, motion carries. Thank you very much. 9.2 is don't have to deal with now. And we are at 9.3. Okay, over to the corporate officer, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. It is Colwood Land Use Bylaw number 151, 1989, Amendment 227, SSMUH, Bylaw 2091-2025 for adoption.
Motion, please. Thank you, Councilor Jensen and Councilor Olson. Discussion. Call the question. Any opposed? Seeing none, motion carries. Next one, please. 9.4.
Colwood Land Use Bylaw number 151, 1989, Amendment 233, CD 45 for 221 Goldfinch Road, and this is for adoption.
Okay. Thank you, Councilor Ward. Seconder, Councilor Jensen. Discussion. Call the question. Any opposed? Seeing none, motion carries. Next, please.
Sewer Local Area Service Enlargement Amendment Bylaws going for first, second, and third reading. Colwood Central Sewer Local Area Service Establishment and Loan Authorization Bylaw 480 for LAS enlargement for 605 Hulser Drive. And Colwood Main Sewer Local Area Establishment and Loan Authorization Bylaw. That is for LAS enlargement for 605 Hulser Drive.
Okay, Councillor Grove, seconder, please. Councillor Jordison. Discussion, please. And seeing no discussion, call the question. Any opposed? Seeing none, motion carries. And the last one, please.
Sewer Local Area Service Enlargement Amendment Bylaws, all going for adoption. Colwood Main Sewer Local Area Service Establishment and Loan Authorization Bylaw for 3110 Wishart Road. Colwood Main Sewer Local Area Service Establishment and Loan Authorization Bylaw for 3155 Wood Park Drive. And Colwood Main Sewer Local Area Service Establishment and Loan Authorization Bylaw for 3112 Wood Park Drive.
Okay, same mover and seconder, Grove and Jordison. Discussion. Seeing none, call the question. Any opposed? Seeing none, motion carries. And before I move into camera, I want to take this opportunity right now to say a very, very fond farewell to our fire chief, Brian Irwin. Brian, thank you for your many years service here in the city of Colwood. Brian, for those that don't know, he's decided to go to the dark side. Am I allowed to say that? No, I mean, I just want to thank you, Brian, just on behalf of the entire city and all the citizens. You've served this community so well. I'm gonna personally miss you. You're one of those guys that I can have a coffee with and no bull from you. You get the honest, absolutely honest stuff from you. So I just want to take this opportunity, Brian, because I understand you're not going till the end. What you won't be here for the next meeting. So I thought I'd take this opportunity at this point in time. I should have probably done our mayor's message to thank you so much. And we do wish you all the best. And I'm confident you're going to just do so well. You'll probably be the fire chief over there next. He goes, no thanks, no fire chief. Anyways, again, Brian, thank you to you and your entire family. I got the opportunity to meet your family, and it's been a real pleasure to have you. And I'm sure we're going to be doing something here formally, within the city. So this won't be the last of it. Thank you. Okay, can we get the motion to go in camera, please? Thank you very much. Seconder, thank you, Jordison, the seconder. Discussion, seeing none, motion carries. I'll just give a